Revenue Authority (GRA) has joined calls for policy reforms to simplify the country's tax administration. According to the Commissioner General, Julie Esiam, in an interview with Nation One TV, stated that the current value-added tax VAT structure makes it difficult for individuals and businesses to comply. She made this call at the 12th Annual International Tax Conference organized by the Chartered Institute of Taxation, Ghana. She furthered that a review of the policy will greatly enhance compliance among private sector businesses. Ghana is under pressure to improve its domestic revenue inflows. The current economic challenges and the country's inability to raise funds from the international capital market has made it imperative to boost domestic revenue generation.
The nature of the economy and its structural characteristics influence the ability to tax and the types of taxes that can be imposed. In effect, there is more room for improvement in tax policies for private sector development. Ghana's story is one of resilience, innovation, and a steadfast commitment to private sector development. We have weathered the storms of global economic challenges and are re-emerging as a beacon of stability and growth. Our efforts have begun yielding positive results, and this is demonstrated by a more robust economic growth and steadily declining inflation, which now stands at 20.9% from the peak of 54% in December 2022. Our fiscal position has also markedly improved, and we are well on the path towards achieving a primary fiscal surplus of 0.5% of GDP.
The function here happens to be the 12th Taxation Conference on the theme Balancing Tax Policy and the Private Sector and Private Sector Development. And clearly it's been stated that a nation cannot do without taxes. But as to the systems and the processes that are put in place to collect these or generate these revenues is what is important, and is what we should look at and see how we balance it such that government collects the necessary revenues and then also create the conducive environment for the private sector to also be more compliant and also do what is expected of them. And so it's more of we trying to meet at a certain point where, one, the tax systems are there, the tax laws are there, and the kind of things that we do with these revenues in itself promotes compliance, so that government wouldn't have to spend more on compliance and for people to pay their taxes. But at the same time, we also making sure that our people understand the need for the taxes and also give them enough time to plan. And that is where we talked about the tax certainty. And because businesses will have to plan and know exactly what they have to pay in the medium to the short to the medium term. And you mentioned that I mentioned that this is the first time we have a medium-term revenue strategy where at least for the next from 2023 to 2027, all tax policies or matters relating to taxes have been put on the Ministry of Finance website, where people can go on our website and read for themselves what we intend to do. You've also heard recently, that was Sunday, when the manifesto was launched, our flag bearer and the current vice president also mentioned one equally important thing that we need to address in our tax policy system, and that has to do with efficiency. And that is why one is going more or strong on the digitalization agenda, and also bringing about measures that will promote efficiency and promote compliance at a minimum cost. And so you heard him say that he's going to bring together the VAT to make it one, so that and there will be one input and outputs, and to reduce the cost of operations on businesses as well. In all that we are doing, we need to look at how efficient we can make the tax system, so that it will be very, very easy for businesses to comply, and also government raising the needed revenue for the development that government needs to develop. Because in every nation, the first point of call for your development is the resources that you generate internally. me talk about compliance and in encouraging people to comply with these taxes. You don't necessarily have to increase taxes, but then you broaden the base. Once you broaden the base, if you broaden the base and you even tweak your taxes downwards, it can go a long way to improve and then raise revenue. So that is what we are focused on this time, promoting more of efficient measures to increase the taxes. And that is why we want to hammer more on the digitalization aspects, because once we do that, we reduce the human interference, and anywhere or any system where there's a reduction in human interference, efficiencies increase. Once there's an increase in efficiency, you also see your revenue collections going up, and that is what we seek to do in the manifesto that our flag bearer outlined on Sunday. We began with the onboarding of the Ghana card. Clearly, with the onboarding of the Ghana card, we realized that there were many people in the system who are eligible to be taxed, who are not being taxed. And so it is something that we are rolling out to make sure we include or we bring all these people on board. And that alone will increase compliance. Once you increase compliance, in effect, you have more revenues being collected. So this is where we are looking at. This is what we...
On his part, the president of the Chartered Institute of Taxation, George Ohenekwetia, advocated for a national tax policy to harmonize activities in the sector. He maintained that this will help support political parties and streamline the tax policies, he said.
So we meet on annual basis to discuss topical issues in respect of tax, and the whole objective is to help raise or mobilize revenue for our economic development as a country. And this year we chose the topic of balancing tax policy and economic development. The reason for it, especially for a time like this, is in years of elections, you will realize that you have politicians coming up with various campaign promises. But obviously, if you want to really move forward as a nation to develop your country, it should be premised on some fundamental principles. And in respect of tax, the foundation should be on tax policy. And hence we chose the topic balancing tax policy and economic development, all with the view that we can draw attention for the nation to focus on the need to have a good tax policy, which will engender development.
So the annual tax conference is a forum where we bring policymakers, and policymakers we mean people who are from government and make the proposals to government when it comes to taxes. So the Ministry of Finance will come, the Ghana Revenue Authority, the top officials and executives, the commissioners will come. We bring tax practitioners, those from the Big Four and also the business community. We bring them together to come and deliberate and discuss on tax matters. This year's theme is balancing tax policy with private sector development. You recall that many businesses have been crying that taxes are too much. Yet government is also saying they need money. So what is the right balance for government and the business community or the taxpayers to strike so that government can still get their taxes and businesses are also not collapse? And that is the purpose. So we are discussing matters like contemporary tax reforms, which talks about the key issues that we are facing in Ghana, the number of taxes that we have, the various taxes that have been introduced, and also we even discuss matters that these political parties are promising. Some are saying that they want to, digitize the tax administration. What does it mean to digitize tax administration, and how do we even bring the informal sector, the people who don't even know how to use computers, yet they are supposed to pay tax? How do we bring them all on board? So these are the critical issues that we are discussing, and because we have brought all the parties into one room, we believe that we will reach a consensus. When we finish, The outcome is that we will issue a communique, give it to government and say this is what the policymakers, this is what the tax professionals, and this is what the business community are saying. We believe as an institute that when taxes or when tax policy starts with engagement and consensus, at the end of the day implementation becomes easier because you and I agreed. And so where there are challenges, we foresee it before we even start the implementation. And I think that is what we want to do. Last year we did similar one and we got a lot of commendation. Government took most of the things that we agreed at the conference into consideration when they were making some of these policy changes. So we believe that after we have issued our communique, government will take those into consideration, especially those political parties who are now making promises. We believe that the document that we issue out to them will be very important to them, and it will guide them. Whoever wins in 2025 will be guided by some of the recommendations that we are going to make after our 2 days discussions and deliberations.
Thank you for watching Nation One TV. Kindly subscribe for more news updates.